Moments ago, former Vice President Kamala Harris will not run for California governor next year, leaving open the possibility that she could mount a third run for the White House in 2028. She said in a statement, over the last 6 months, I have spent time reflecting on this moment in our nation's history and the best way for me to continue fighting for the American people and advancing values and ideals I hold dear. I've given serious thought to asking the people of California for the privilege to serve as their governor. I love this state, its people, and its promise. It's my home. But after deep reflection, I've decided that I will not run for governor in this election. Patrick, your reaction to that? Do you hope that that means that she will run again for president of the United States?
I don't think she'll run for president of the United States. Is my gut reading the statement, live here. I thought she was, really considering governor, but. I think she wants to serve in different capacities, is my understanding. But, I don't speak for her. I'm not her spokesperson. But let's face it. I mean, she just went through a grueling, presidential race. Her second, cycle of the, she ran for president, obviously, 5 years ago, and then again this past cycle. So I don't think there'll be a third time, if you're asking me my opinion. But I will tell you that, I think she has an incredibly important voice, and I hope she continues to serve in the public interest in some capacity, whether it's in the private sector or elsewhere.
Tomi, your reaction to this news about Kamala Harris, the former VP?
I honestly don't think she could win, even in California. California is fed up with their failed leadership, and they aren't going to go from one failed leader, Gavin Newsom, to another in Kamala Harris. And I think that she even understands she couldn't win there. I don't think that she's going to run for president again, but I'll tell you this, she's also been largely absent, even in California, with everything that California has gone through, with the immigration riots, of course, the wildfires. That is her home state, and she did not take the opportunity to stand on that stage and speak to those issues in any meaningful way. She just had an opportunity to talk to the future voters of America at a summit, and she sent in a virtual message. This woman is not serious about running for anything, and maybe that's a good thing for her party and for the country.
Quick question to you, Patrick, before I bring in Steve Hilton. I mean, right now there's so much focus, and this, of course, would probably change a bit in the coming years, but right now there's so much focus on what did you know and how much did you understand about the declining abilities of President Biden? And I have to believe, if you're looking at a scenario where you're on a debate stage answering questions or you're in interviews, she would be pressed on this mightily.
No doubt. And can I just say real quick, I disagree with Tomi. I think if she would have ran for governor, she would have won, but that's not the question. The question you're asking is, I do think, Martha, that she'd be asked those questions, those tough questions. And I think that's why a lot of Democrats, a lot of Americans are ready to turn the page. I think they're looking for new generation of leaders, both in the Democratic and Republican Party. And I think you're going to see those leaders emanate from the states, in states like Pennsylvania and Maryland and elsewhere.
Just before I let you go, does Mandami represent that new generation to you, Patrick?
I think it comes from the states, not necessarily the cities. How about that?
All right, guys. Tomi Lahren, Patrick Murphy, thank you. All right, so with that, we want to bring in Democrat Senator Chris Coons from Delaware. He served as national co-chair of President Biden's re-election campaign. Senator Coons, welcome back. It's good to have you here, sir.
Thanks. It's always good to be on with you, Martha.
What's your reaction to this? Is this the end of Kamala Harris's career in politics?
I don't think so. She was a very strong attorney general for the state of California. She served well in the Senate and as vice president. I don't know what her future will bring, but I'm sure she will continue to serve her state and our nation.
Would you encourage her to run for president again if she came to you and said, look, I'm talking to a lot of people for advice, I'm not going to run for governor? Would you be supportive if she wanted to run for the Democratic nomination in 2028?
Martha, 2028 is a long way off. And first, we need to focus on the challenges right in front of us here in Congress. Our president, Donald Trump, and his OMB director are trying very hard to shut this government down. And on a bipartisan basis, those of us who are appropriators are trying to keep it open and trying to do our job and meet the needs of the American people, keeping costs down, keeping our national defense strong, investing in health care. And that's in contrast with a president who wants to take away health care from millions of Americans. That's the issue right in front of us. 2028 is literally years away.
Well, we had a good GDP number today, and we do see hundreds of billions, Scott Bessent says, probably $300 $300 billion coming into the coffers through these tariffs so far, which economists on both sides of the aisle seem to feel is a pretty strong record so far. I'm just being told that Hunter Biden, what did he say in response to Kamala Harris's decision? Quote, this is a quote from Hunter Biden on Kamala Harris dropping out of the governor's race in California. That's interesting, he says.
So, Martha, I'll respond to your point about 3% GDP growth and $300 billion coming in in tariff revenue. This Friday is when President Trump's next round of tariffs are scheduled to take effect. I'll remind you, it's American consumers who are paying those tariffs. The first quarter, our economy shrank, and that's partly because of the chaos and unpredictability of the tariffs. I don't know, and frankly, no one knows, whether President Trump will go ahead with the very large tariffs that are scheduled to hit this Friday.
You know, we were all told it was doomsday based on the tariffs. And, you know, anywhere you look, you know, across the sort of persuasion spectrum, people are saying, gee, this actually didn't turn out to be terrible for our economy. In fact, Jerome Powell just said that wages are rising higher than the rate of inflation. So he thinks that's a pretty good sign for the U.S. economy.
So, Martha, that's largely because President Trump suspended most of his major tariffs. He's been trying to negotiate deals. I think he said he'd get 90 deals in 90 days. He's had a handful, but he has largely suspended imposing massive new tariffs.
They still have $300 billion coming in.
They're
saying that they think it's going to be pretty productive in terms of lowering, lowering the debt, because they're going to have about $300 billion coming in. So some of them may not have gone into effect. He said he's sticking to the August 1st deadline with these other countries. So clearly the tariffs are bringing in income to the country. Correct? You would see that.
Yes. What they are not doing, Martha, is bringing prices down, because consumers are paying those additional tariff-driven higher prices.
But inflation is lower now than it was when he took office, Senator.
On his promise to put tariffs on all of our major trading partners, that's going to raise prices.
Inflation is
EU products
lower now,
coming into our country
than
right
it was
now
when he took
pay
office,
about 2.5% tariff. He's going to quadruple that. That will raise our prices.
I'm just asking for like an objective take on this, because here inflation is down since President Trump came into office. You accept that number?
Inflation is roughly level. It has not gone down significantly. It has also not gone up significantly.
Well, it's a lot lower than the 9% that we had in the last administration, correct? It's down, I think it's about 2.7%, if I'm looking at the right number here. Yeah, I am.
Which is close to what it was last year. So, yes, right after the massive pandemic that was made worse by President Trump's conduct in the first months of the pandemic, yes, the recovery, which required significant investment to restart our economy, we had high inflation. By the end of the previous administration, the Biden administration, that inflation had come down dramatically.
Okay, it was just so people know, it was at 3.1 in January. It's at 2.7 now. So that just the argument that tariffs or these arrangements on trades have made things more expensive for people is not true. It is only marginally lower, as you point out, but it is lower. It is not higher as a result of the tariffs.
It depends on the product. If you've gone to the grocery store and bought beef recently, it's at an all-time high. If you're trying to build housing so that we can deal with our national crisis,
well, everybody wants prices to get lower. That's for
prices for wallboard and plywood coming from Mexico and Canada are higher. So
we'll see
there are some lower, some higher.
We'll see what direction it all goes in. Senator Coons, thank you very much. Do you want Hunter Biden to run for president? Sounds like he's thinking about it.
No, I do not.
No, you do not.
No, I do not.
Okay.
Martha, I do have something up on Fox today that is a letter calling on President Trump to not give advanced technology to China. He has just waived some of the critical technology export controls that were in place to prevent China from taking the lead in artificial intelligence. I hope viewers will give that a read.
H2O
it's an important letter, an important issue.
There's some controversy over that. Senator, we'll point people to that piece as well on Fox. Thank you very much, Senator. Good to have you,
Martha.
You bet.
But will all this outrage help the left with their glaring man problem? A recent analysis shows that masculine Democrats is an oxymoron in the eyes of many young men. Most struggle to name masculine leaders within the Democratic Party outside of former President Barack Obama. I know you've been dying to talk about Sydney Sweeney all day, but tell us your thoughts on Kamala Harris's statement.
Well, I felt like maybe you were going to say, Dana, well done. You told us she was not going to end up running. I think I said that. But I do think that this is the best decision Kamala Harris ever made because she was probably going to lose. And I think it also shows that she is not as powerful as some people might have thought. She believed she was going to clear the field, that all the other Democrats were going to say, oh, Kamala Harris is running? Well, I guess I better step out of the way. That wasn't happening. So she was going to have to fight for that nomination and probably lose it. Because if you remember, she was the first to drop out in 2019 before there was ever even a vote cast. She spent all that, she raised a ton of money, and then she lost all the money. Her campaign was a shambles. Everybody went on the record that worked for her campaign and then carried on into the White House saying she's terrible. We have to reset this. We have to keep redoing it. Joe Biden picks her because Clyburn tells him to, and then that was a terrible thing for them all along, and then they had to do the switcheroo. She could have a great impact doing lots of other things. I do not think she will run for elected office again.
You can mourn your nominee, please, Jessica, and then tell us your thoughts on why your party is so crazy about Sydney Sweeney.
I will do no mourning or no craziness. I think it was the right decision for her. It would have been really tough. There were a number of meetings with high-end donors in California who they're holding their money back. So you can't win a race unless that's going to happen. Now all eyes turn to Katie Porter, who's going to be the far-left progressive candidate there. And there's a lot of buzz about whether Rick Caruso will try to get in, but a question always...
Steve Hilton.
And Steve Hilton, who's already in. Rick Caruso, I think, would be interesting, especially in light of losing the LA mayor's race and then Karen Bass's management of the LA fires. On the Sydney Sweeney front, ad campaigns are supposed to have hot people in them that make you talk about the ads and eventually buy the product. And so this is a home run for American Eagle. Stock went up 18%. They have 4 times the traffic on the website. They're part of the conversation, though I would say it is largely an online conversation. I asked a couple people who don't spend all day on their devices, well, what do you think about the potential eugenics American Eagle ad? And they were like, what are you talking about? But I think it was smart for them to use someone who's so popular right now. And I was not offended, though I also have not bought the jeans, but I still like skinny jeans, which I know is just like a millennial thing.
Paul loves skinny jeans. The skinnier, the better, Paul.
Particularly on, what's her name? Sydney Sweeney?
Yeah.
What's her name?
What's
that girl's name?
Good prep for today, Paul.
That's how you know you're getting older, right? You have no idea who the celebrities are. Don't say anything. All right, so... All right, Kamala not running. First of all, this is the equivalent of the New York Mets saying, yeah, we don't really want to win the World Series, okay? You weren't going to win. That's obviously what went into this. And really, if you think about it, the conditions that created Kamala as the Democratic rock star they couldn't have been more favorable to her, right? Because obviously you had the debacle with Joe Biden, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, she was the anointed. And the entire, I mean, you've never seen fundraising like that in so short a time. And yet it didn't work. We call that in law enforcement a clue, all right? So I agree with you, Dana. I think it was the right move. That said, I am going to say I think she has a future. She's going to have a future with the party. You know, the party likes her. She's personable. She's photogenic, all of that stuff. And that matters these days. You know, Greg, you said at one time, you know, that politics is supposed to be show business for ugly people. And it's not true in show business anymore. The reverse is also true in politics. You now have good-looking politicians, right? Mm-hmm. So I think she does have a future. That said, it's just not right now. The future's not what it used to be for Kamala. Let's move on real quick on the Sydney Sweeney front. The thing about jeans, all right? What do you think made her look like that if it wasn't jeans? Kale? She did a bunch of crunches or something and gave her those assets. It didn't go that way, all right? And just all I'm going to do is just reverse it now. And, you know, I don't mean to be mean-spirited, but come on now. If, let's say it was Beyonce who said that, right? Or if LeBron James said, no, it wasn't jeans that got me into the NBA. It's because I can do a lot of pull-ups. You know, you'd laugh. Of course, it has to do with you're physically gifted. And there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is this is not about Nazism. It's about envy. And the people what realistically social media has done, and it's bad for the Democrats particularly, is that it's like Democratic, like makeup remover. There's no film anymore. There's no distance. We can see who they are. And so you get young women with purple hair and nose rings saying that Sydney Sweeney is a Nazi. Sydney Sweeney is not a Nazi. The campaign is not Nazism. And we've talked about this. Anytime you invoke Nazism, you've lost.
Greg, I know you've been dying to talk about Sydney Sweeney.
Oh, it is quite a contrast. No one wants to see Kamala run. Everyone wants to see Sydney run. So
that's disgusting.
Let's talk about the masculinity thing. From the 1960s onward, little history lesson, Dana. Many men pretended to be liberal just to get girls. Because of the 60s and the 70s, there are a lot of cute liberal girls you can impress by, reading a summary on Karl Marx and Angela Davis. But then you realize over time that a lot of these women became more and more unhappy and less attractive. They became less like Sydney and more like Rosie. It was like, you know what? Maybe this isn't the best place to be. So the only men that are left over in the Democrat Party are authentic phonies. They've been doing it so long, they've lost their actual personality. Like Gavin Newsom, that isn't real. Eric Swalwell, that's not real. Cory Booker, he's a one-man theater troupe. The Sydney story, though, the reason why it's interesting is, and Jessica's right, that it was kind of an internet story, but then the media, who has nothing good to write about because of Trump doing so well, this is their story. So they amplified it, but it shows the vast difference in priorities between most Americans and junk food journalists. Most Americans, they're thinking about education, crime, economy, their mortgage. But these articles are generated by people, mostly women, sad, no family, no spouse, detached from actual concerns of life. So they have to create these stories that they find meaning in and that we find hysterical. They're actually the sad clowns of today. They're providing us with the entertainment and the segments we so desperately need during the summer. Then think about the anti-woke backlash right now. Everybody is laughing at this. Woke is dead. But I think it is driven by a realization that at least 1 to 3 generations were told a lie about gender, sex, and happiness. That women were told by their favorite magazines, from Cosmo to Glamour, you didn't need a man. But if you wanted a man, you could have many. And they shouldn't be like your dad. And there is no clock. You can be 25 forever. You can live this life forever. We're not going to forget you. But we do. So now you have women in their 30s and the 40s who are left behind romantically and biologically, casualties of the sexual revolution, that were told over and over again, don't be a Sydney Sweeney, be an Elliot Page instead. So Sydney Sweeney is a reminder that women are always going to be women and men are always going to be men who like women. And the people who preach differently, celebrities and elites, they can do so because they have the status and the fame to weather whatever outcome there is for their dumb choices. But the millions of women who bought those magazines and believe that beauty is patriarchy and monogamy is a prison, they don't have that luxury. They're stuck without a safety net. How's that?
Sydney Sweeney.
There's a lot of history, Greg.
She replaced the shark attack story for the summer.
Yes.
There's no shark attack.
We need Sydney Sweeney week.
Yes, it is week.
And I would watch her run every day.
You remember the Carl's Jr. ad?
Yes.
Every summer on Fox for business purposes.
No, remember at Fox every night, Spring Break Gone Mad.
Who did that? What a bunch of animals.
I still read Playboy for the articles. I don't care.
To this news, and one fewer person on the list of those who want to be governor of California.
Well, it's great to be with you, Martha, and I think this is great news for California because we can now be certain that someone who is so completely useless in pretty much every job she's had, including running for president, will be nowhere near anything that can make a difference to the lives of Californians. And so that is great news for all of us here. I also think it makes it more likely that we will get the change that we need in California next year in the elections. As Tomi was saying, people are absolutely sick of what's been happening after 15 years now of one-party rule. And so I'm very encouraged by the prospects of winning that election next year and bringing the change that we need. But the point personally on Kamala Harris that I would make is that This doesn't surprise me because she has shown zero interest in any of the issues and the problems that have been caused by 15 years of one-party rule. What does she have to say about the fact that we have the highest gas prices in the country? Nothing. What does she have to say about the fact that we have right now the highest unemployment rate in America, the highest poverty, the worst business climate, the highest housing cost, the highest cost for everything? All of these things are problems created by her party and her policies. She's shown no interest in them, no plan to do anything about them. I have, and I do, and I've got a plan for $3 gas, for bringing down costs. That's why I think that it's looking good for real change and a California revolution next year.
We'll see. Who do you think is who does this put in first place in terms of who the likely Democrat running for governor in California would be?
Right now, we have the numbers on that. There was a poll just the other week of the declared candidates for California governor. I was top of the poll and right behind me with the leading Democrat, Katie Porter. Mm-hmm. All the other Democrats were way behind in low single digits. So as far as I'm concerned, the fight now is a two-person race, a two-horse race between me and Katie Porter. That's what it looks like. There are no real suggestions of other Democrats who might jump into the race. We haven't really heard that. And so feels like Katie Porter is the one to beat. As of the latest opinion poll, I am beating her. So I'm feeling pretty confident right now.
And there's been some discussion that Rick Grinnell might throw his hat in the ring on the Republican side. Do you think that's going to happen?
Well, Rick's a good friend and has done fantastic work in California, helping to support the effort to register Republican voters and clean up the voter rolls. He's always said that he would take a look at this if Kamala Harris were to enter the race. And so based on that, I suspect not. All
right. Steve Hilton, thank you very much. Good to have you with us today.
The lesson is don't scatter. The instinct has to be to immediately find and connect with each other, and to know that the circle will be strong.
Congressman Jim Comer from Kentucky, Chair of House Oversight. Congressman, I want you to remember this. Don't scatter. Okay, please don't scatter. Above all else, do not scatter. I'm going to put that on a T-shirt for you. Send it to you. Congressman, what's this all about? I mean, she said she didn't have all the answers. Things were going to get worse before they got better in that speech as she closed out. But we got 3% GDP. We have a real border. Sounds pretty good to me.
It is good. And look, there's no guarantee Kamala Harris would have even won that governor's race. If you look at how she got to be the Democrat nominee, she was appointed in a smoke-filled room. There's no guarantee she ever would have emerged from the primary, even if they had had an abbreviated primary. There's no guarantee she would have even beaten Gavin Newsom or Josh Shapiro or any other leading Democrats. Lastly, I'm glad she's not running, and I hope that she runs for president again. Because, look, she's a great candidate for Republicans. I don't think if you listed the top 20 potential candidates for president on the Republican side in 2028, I don't think she could even come close to any of them. So if the Democrats want to officially nominate her once, which I doubt they will, I'm all for it because I'm confident we'll have another Republican president.
Okay, before we get to the burn bags and what Kash Patel found, you listen to your colleagues across the political aisle. I mean, just yes or no, do they want her just to go away? I mean, you have to know this. Do they want her just to go away, most of them?
Yes. They never did like her. They didn't have a relationship with her when she was vice president, so they want her to go away.
Oh. And Congressman, as I mentioned, FBI Director Kash Patel announced that he found burn bags of Trump-Russia hoax documents in a secret room. One of the documents officials found was the classified annex to former special counsel John Durham's final report, which includes the underlying intelligence he reviewed. So I guess it's kind of an annex section of that report. Now, Congressman, maybe it was just duplicated and you do burn things. I mean, that is not, I don't want to make it like you don't ever have burn bags. You do have burn bags in the government. But what do you make of this?
Look, I knew all along that the Democrats would try to destroy any evidence that would make them liable in this Russia hoax. We knew it was a Russia hoax. Fox knew it was a Russia hoax. You did a great job, Laura, reporting the facts about this Russia hoax. Now Kash Patel, who, by the way, is the right guy for the job, he's in there. We've got John Radcliffe in there, Tulsi Gabbard's in there. They're all trying to get the truth to the American people and hold people accountable. It's not just about the fact that we've proven they lied all along to try to hurt Donald Trump and destroy his presidential campaign. It's about the fact that they've lost confidence. We've lost confidence in the intelligence community. We have competent people in there now. We want them to pay a price. We want the Comeys and the Brennans and those guys to pay a price for what they did. It's illegal, it's wrong, and they need to be held accountable. And I think Kash Patel is on the right track, and God bless Kash Patel and John Radcliffe.
Well, words about accountability are great. We actually have to see accountability. But Congressman, the Biden gatekeeper, Steve Ricchetti, testified in front of your committee today, and we're told he still thinks Biden could have won in 2024, and he was capable of being president right now. So what else can you tell us?
Well, he didn't tell us a whole lot of what you wouldn't expect. It appears to me a lot of these Biden lackeys, they're still trying to claim that Joe Biden was in top physical condition when everyone in America saw it in the debate. Everyone in America saw the rapid decline over the last year of his presidency, especially the last 4 months of his presidency. It's almost like they're a cult. You know, the 7 or 8 people that were around Joe Biden is like a cult. But at the end of the day, his testimony wasn't consistent with others who have actually testified. About half the Biden people have pled the fifth. The other half have testified. And all their testimony is inconsistent. So we're going to put the pieces together, and we're going to release all the transcripts, and we're going to issue a report, and hopefully we'll be able to determine whether or not Joe Biden had any idea who was using the auto pen and what they were using it for. Thus far, there's no evidence that emerges that he did know.
Congressman, are you going to subpoena someone like a Kamala Harris?
I think that's another great thing about Kamala Harris not running for governor. She's going to have more time to come before the House Oversight Committee and testify about Joe Biden's cognitive decline. So I think the odds of Kamala Harris getting a subpoena are very high.
Well, that will be something, quite something. Get ready for the laugh. You have to wear earplugs. Congressman, thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.